we would have every cigarette that was, there was no smoking, but the trustees could get them from the guards and you could get them from the trustees.
Right.
Okay.
And a cigarette was expensive. I mean, people usually get a cigarette and they would break it up into 4 roll-ups, get papers and sometimes use the wrappers on toilet paper for cigarette papers because we couldn't always get them. But if you smoked the whole thing, that was called a Cadillac. And I smoked Cadillacs.
That's my
when
guy.
I was there. So I did okay. I didn't smoke very much. I should have just quit. I was lucky I could smoke 1 cigarette, maybe 2 a day.
Oh, so you got back on the horse with the cigarettes after jail and you loved it.
Oh, started smoking like Chief Wahoo by the time I'd been out 3 or 4 hours. It was ridiculous.
The straight up Cleveland Indian over there.
Steve Earle, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm a single dad, so I'm always tired, so that doesn't surprise me. I'm constantly reminded at some point during my day where you really shouldn't have a kid when you're 55. But I'm 71 now, and I got a 16-year-old with autism, and he's doing good, but he's like he's a full pull, man, because we have teenageism and autism going on right now.
Oh.
And I think it's sort of a tie.
The perfect storm,
It's
if you
one
will.
of those things. It's like,
How do you convince? First of all, I want to know about I want you to teach me a little bit about relationships and how to what what I need to do to, because I stay on the road too for 250 shows a year, and I've been doing that forever. And any advice for me about who I should pick? Who's the right one?
you know what? I've retired defeated.
Yeah.
I live by I live with a 16-year-old boy who's 2 inches taller than me and doesn't speak.
Yeah.
So I talk all the time for both of us. And, I answer my own questions sometimes when I ask him one. A friend of mine was walking around my apartment because I collect guitars, and there's probably 30 at any given time in my apartment, and then another, 170 in Nashville, and the house. And there's a whole floor that's basically a workshop in guitars there. Here, there's still a lot of guitars and 2 closets, that are full of them on top of it, 2 rolling racks under a loft bed in my bedroom, and then a whole wall of guitars I'm looking at now under my TV set, and interrupted by my Puja, my Puja table that I've got stuff on because it's, I meditate and do yoga right here. But it's, and I've been accused of worshiping the guitars. But
Who do you love more, your guitars or your kids?
yeah, well, no, I have a lot of guitars. It's like kids. I've got, I had 3 boys. Of course, I lost one, and 3 different moms. And I've got 2 stepdaughters that grew up in my house part of the time that I'm really close to. The only girls I've got.
Yeah.
And one stepson that I'm less close to, but that's just because I think he's in the CIA or something now, and he's not that close to anybody, but he likes me.
That's good.
So it's one of those deals.
He'll keep you safe if you need it. For not paying your taxes and stuff, he'll be like, hey, this guy's good. This guy's good.
yeah, whatever.
He's a legendary songwriter. Give him a pass. He's in the wire.
He's in the wire. Calm down, people.
I'm a totally willing taxpayer, actually, to tell you the truth. I'm the farthest thing from a libertarian when it comes to that kind of shit. Look, I live in New York City. I pay both state and city income tax. And my son, I make good money, but to keep John Henry in the school he needs to be in, his mom wanted to go back to Tennessee, and she's not a New Yorker. And if you're not, it's torture to live here. But, I discovered that I should have moved here a long time ago. I've been more comfortable here than any place I've ever been.
Interesting.
And now it got put to the test because I'm actually home more than I've ever been in my life, because 9 months of the year, I'm more here than gone. I travel on weekends. About once a month, I go to Nashville to do the Grand Ole Opry for the last 3 years or so. And then I became a member not quite a year ago. So I go once a month, I'll go play the Opry. And I just shot a TV show for a day in Tulsa, and then went to Richmond to record with Los Lobos, and because that was easier to get those guys to go to a studio on the day of a gig in Richmond that wasn't going to come out of their own houses in LA because that's just the way they are.
Right.
And I just I've known them a long time, but I wrote a song that I needed to record with them that I really want out, and so we recorded that. It's got a couple more things that need to get done to it in Berlin. Steve Earle promises it's going to get done when they get back to LA this week. So
I mean, Steve Earle is the goat, man.
Yeah, he's the man.
I'm here most of the time, 9 months of the year. And then Memorial Day weekend, he goes to his mom in Nashville, and I get on a tour bus and stay on there for 3 months. And it's been that way for 5 or 6 years now, I guess, 6 years.
Tell me about the comfortability of New York City, because I have that same comfortability. I love it. I go there all the time. I'm thinking of moving back. I've been going there. What makes you feel so comfortable in the hustle bustle, the fast moving streets? What makes you feel secure in that?
Well, look, in the first place, as far as it's like, I mean, I live, better than a lot of people do in New York City. I mean, I'm not rich. I've been married too many times to have accumulated very much. and why when I was talking about being a fan of taxes, and I didn't finish that thought because I talk too fucking much. But basically, I am ahead on New York City income tax. I've received more money back from the state of New York than I pay because there's a federal law that says if your kid has a special need and the school district where you live, the public school district where you live, is not can't provide exactly what the experts recommend for your child, then they have to pay for you to get it from a private source.
Damn, sick.
Oh, wow.
And that's a federal law. But most places, because the only way you get elected in this country is to promise people you're going to lower their taxes. Mm-hmm. And I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, you want your taxes lowered. I know lots of lefties that voted for Giuliani because they weren't getting mugged when they got money out of an ATM for Coke in the East Village anymore. So they voted for Giuliani and didn't tell anybody. So they bought the idea that he made the city safer, and he didn't. Real estate values made the city safer.
Right,
the protection goes where the money is.
Right.
It's that simple. And it's always been that way. So
do you think gentrification is good for New York City or not?
Do I think what?
Gentrification is good for New York City or not?
I think it's some of this, some of that. I think our current mayor has the exact right idea. You've got to artificially, quit. You got to stand up to the developers because it can go too far.
Right.
It's one of those things that, the reason the gentrification has the connotation that it does is because what happens is it immediately prices any kind of working people out. So, the only people that, and now you're going to be anti-immigration at the same time. The only people you're going to be able to get to work at the jobs that you don't want to do are going to be stacked 10 deep in a 1-bedroom in Chinatown. That's the only source you're going to have for labor. And, of course, Chinatown takes care of itself. I figured that out. It's the most insular immigrant community in the world.
I'm obsessed with Chinatown.
They do their own, man. I walk through there every morning because I drop my kid off at school on the Lower East Side, which is where his school is. And then I walk back to Battery Park City, which is where I live now. And I finally got where I could buy. And I left the village because I didn't really want to. But I wanted to get my son a swimming pool, and there's no such thing in the building of the village. He lives to swim. So, but it doesn't suck. I'm looking at Ellis Island, the Statue of Liberty, and the Cross Governors at Red Hook from where I'm sitting right now. So cool. And when I come home with 2 guitars, a banjo, and a mandolin, an elevator doesn't suck.
Oh my God! I'll clap to that.
But at any rate, I did nothing but walk-ups before this. But basically, New York can't claim they don't have the money to fund that law.
I know.
Hey guys, it's Andy, and I want to talk a little bit about Volume.com. Yes, Volume.com, our sugar daddy. Yes, our sponsor, and we are doing a only Frasco subscription for $5 a month. We're gonna have extended videos of the podcast. You're gonna have a live stream once a month of the band. You're gonna have live streams of us making the new record. So head over to Volume.com/Andy Frasco. Subscribe. It's only $5. I got a cup of coffee today. It was $7.50. You could just spend 1 cup of coffee and get all the Frasco you want. So head over to Volume.com/Andy Frasco and subscribe. Support your guys. Maybe I'll even pay Nick more. You never know.
So, but you have to litigate to get it. You have to at least get an advocate. There's a company called Sousa Luger Associates that's just an advocacy. They will hook you up with a lawyer for the parts where you need a lawyer. And there are law firms which is not the most cost efficient way to do it, that do this type of work, but basically represent kids with families of kids with autism to get the money from the city of New York. And the school he goes to is ridiculously expensive. I won't say the number, but it's more than you can imagine.
Right.
But the reason for it is because what's recommended for a child with profound autism like John Henry, he's nonverbal. He stopped speaking. He had 26, 27 words, way ahead of schedule at 14 months and none at 19 months. And he hasn't spoken since.
Whoa.
And
oh, man.
He's learned a lot of things and he's made progress, but everything's slow and he learns it different. But he's smart. He's a problem solver. I got up, my toilet started getting stopped up. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And we snaked one out one time, and there's socks and toys and food and all kinds. Obviously, John Henry's flushing down the toilet. Yeah. So I'm like, what kind of weird autism behavior is this? And I come in one morning at breakfast, and I've set up his breakfast. I leave the room, and he navigates his iPad really well. He kind of lives on it, and he talks with it with a program for one thing at school, and he also just surfs. And I've never been on YouTube except to look at my own videos there during the lockdown when I was doing those guitar videos. Yeah. And he's on YouTube and he's watching a video called Will It Flush? And it's a whole series, and it's these dudes.
My gosh. Inspiration.
And they're taking stuff and they're flushing it down the toilet and filming whatever occurs, right?
Yeah.
And that's how he started flushing stuff down. So I had to say, way to go, son. It's one of those things just for figuring that out.
Hey, so. Steve, my question is, through this, you say you're talking to yourself when you're talking with your kid and stuff. What have you learned about yourself through this process of teaching a kid with autism?
That I'm capable of being patient if I force myself.
Damn.
I'm not a patient person. But I've been in recovery a long time. That helps a little. But, and I started the yoga practice about, I don't know, John Henry 16, about 13 years ago. And but I started originally because of physical stuff, just trying not to get old so fast. But it sort of happened at the same time as for my 60th birthday, Danny Goldberg took me to Maui to meet Ram Dass. I read Be Here Now when it came out. So this was a big deal for me, So we go to this retreat, and, Ram Dass had a severe stroke about 20 years before he died. And he was in a wheelchair and he had a little trouble speaking. And when I met him, I thought, wow, I wonder what John Henry would think about Ram Dass, what Ram Dass would think about John Henry. So the following Christmas, I brought him back. I brought John Henry with me. We went to see Ram Dass, and I've got this picture of them meeting, and it's like, it's mind-blowing when you look at it. It's just electricity. And so I brought him every year after that, until Ram Dass passed away in 2020, about 6 years in a row. And Ram Dass at one time, he asked me what I'd been doing, and I said, John Henry's up dismantling 2 different puja tables in Ram Dass's house, and he doesn't care. And he said, what have you been doing? I said, well, I've been doing this. I've been making that and blah, blah, blah. But mainly I follow him around. So I guess he's my guru. And Ram Dass just pointed his finger at me, like, bingo, you get it. So I learned a lot, and it's mostly about that I'm capable of being better. I'm capable of being more patient. That I'm capable of not automatically reacting to anything, because it doesn't do any good with somebody that doesn't have language in the way that you're used to communicating with them. We've found ways around it. And then when you add puberty to autism, it's like it's 2 chemical things in the brain colliding at the same time.
Right,
so it's chaos.
That's like a war.
He was so great. We made all this progress. He never had any trouble flying. He never had any trouble. He was just as sweet as he could be all the time, and nothing but progress in school. And then we started having problems when he was about 14. But then I went back to everybody I know that was having kids. Like, 14 years old, they become assholes. And then a few years later, I got my kid back, and there's just got to live through that. That's all you can do. 8-year-old boys and 14-year-old boys through about 18 are assholes, and then hopefully they recover from it. And that's the tricky part, you know, after 18, whether they ever actually make that last transition.
Were you ever a rebel when you were a kid? Were you always a rebel?
Yeah, I mean, some of it was just me trying to justify ineptitude. I was so bad at math. I was a kid that did great in school without even really trying, from first grade to fifth grade. And then long division eluded me. I couldn't figure it out. It was just once you had to start juggling more than one column figures, it just, I didn't, you know, of course the Beatles happened around the same time. So I was starting to get distracted. So I don't know. I just quit doing things in that class and brought home a D for the first time in math. And then the next year I failed it. And then I started finding other things. Then I get a little older still. And I don't know it yet, but obviously I was put here to do something with words.
Right.
And every English teacher I got was a football coach because I was in Texas, you know, and it's to teach.
Yeah.
To teach English is considered, all you need is a basic teaching ticket to teach English at the high school level, up through high school level in Texas, which means physical education counts, and it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things because it's not, I had, like, for instance, I expressed some unpopular opinion, and I was already, you know, look, I had an uncle 5 years older that gave me my first guitar. First three guitars were hand-me-downs from him. He was left-handed, so once they gave them to me, for a while I just played his guitar, you know, upside down, and then I finally figured out it was when I strung them the other way, things progressed a lot faster. But and then I got my first Beatles, Stones, Bob from him, you know, as hand-me-downs. Up until 1967, he'd lived in our house for 2 years, between 65 and 67. So he would bring the records home, and so I didn't have to buy any records. And we lived in a little town outside of San Antonio, so there was no record store where you could go get them. There's just a dime store, and you could get singles. And a lot of them were sound-alikes. You had to be really careful or you got counterfeits, and because they did those in those days.
Oh, really?
But oh yeah, they did sound-alike Beatles records. They did anybody that had a hit. There were sound-alikes out there. In the bins.
Whoa, that's crazy.
And it'd be a name similar, you know, like and kids fell for it from time to time. I did one time on a Beatles record, but I think it was a single then. A single was 49 cents or something, 59 cents or something like that in those days in a dime store. But
were you over your parents or like what was like? Were they too strict on you? Did you have to? That's why you had to leave or what?
No.
What was
Parents, look, my poor parents went through. I mean, my house was a little chaotic because my mom had some mental health issues, but you know, she was depressed and they treated her with shock treatments, and she was in and out. It's the 70s. It made a little comeback there, and thank God One Flew Over This Cuckoo's Nest shut that down again. And then, you know, they were supportive and almost everything. Were terrified because my uncle got locked up for selling a matchbox of marijuana to a federal narcotics agent when he was 19.
Fuck.
And so they were terrified of me. They were terrified because I worshiped Nick. And I got my first shot of heroin from him too, you know, and
How
when I
old?
was 13.
Holy.
And I was in San Antonio and dope was cheap. And I did everything. I didn't keep using when I went to Nashville when I was 19 and I'd gotten more into music and I didn't do it all the time, but it was around that I did dope sometimes, but I mainly just broke and I was trying to do something. I ran away from home when I was 14, went to Houston, and I found out about stuff over there. And I knew, once I started playing coffee houses, I knew who Townsend Zandt was, and I stalked him. And there was heroin involved in that scene, but I was not allowed anywhere near it because I was so young. Those guys would disappear. Him, Rocky Hill, all those guys that when they would get dope, they would all of a sudden just lose me, and I'd find myself sitting in some girl's living room by myself. Where everybody vanished.
It's like 15 years old or 16 years old or 19.
And then by that time I was 17 and 18. I was 18 when I went over to Houston, and finally got to know Towns. And then 19 I went to Nashville, and the dope was just prohibitively expensive there. So
you snorted?
I didn't do any more dope until 1986 when Guitar Town came out, and I started traveling to places where the dope was worth doing and way cheaper, and I had more money.
Right.
So, and the things got out of hand really quickly.
What did you?
By Copperhead Road, by the third album, I was having to fly. I was out opening for Bob Dylan. I was flying to San Antonio because I'd talked the methadone program there into giving me, take homes where I'd never managed to drop a clean urine in my life.
Right.
So it was, I just, I used drugs for a long time, and I wasn't particular about them for a long time, but I always liked opiates better than anything else. And that was my thing. And that's what finally got me.
Quick break from the interview. I want to talk about our lovely sponsor, Gardenista. Gardenista is the freshest, most delicious, ready-to-serve cocktail, and it's unlike anything you ever tasted. It really isn't. It's really nice, actually. Mm-hmm. It's made with natural ingredients, green herbs, ginger, lime juice, organic cane sugar. I didn't know that it had organic cane sugar. That's what I tasted in it.
I love the jalapeno.
The jalapeno is nice. A subtle kick of perfectly balanced with premium spirits, tequila, vodka, or bourbon. You could pick between these green juices having tequila, vodka, or bourbon, which is pretty sick. My favorite is the vodka one. It feels good with the spice. Tequila's good.
And the tequila is my favorite.
Yeah. And it's only 98 calories. Damn, I didn't know that. It's only 98 calories?
Per serving, yeah.
Oh, a little skinny bitch over here. Yes, bitch. I'm a little skinny bitch when I drink Gardenista. It's 98 calories per serving and 15% alcohol. ABV's alcohol?
Alcohol by volume.
Wow, that's strong drink. No wonder. I normally pull it out when I have those 3 a.m. parties after the bars. And it's bomb. And it's kind of like a nice talking. Like you feel like I put some ice in it and it's a nice conversational piece. So you could order it at their shop, drinkgardenista.com. And for listeners of the World Saving Podcast, please use the code Frasco for 20 to get 20% off your first order. That's Frasco, the word for FOR 20. I love this. I know you will too. And Jason, who runs the company, is just a great guy. And
that's not what he said to say.
He said, he told us to say. Also, my best friend Jason has a huge hog. Mm-hmm. And that's true. So grab Gardenista and let him know Frasco and Jason's huge hog sent you. Mm-hmm. All right, goodbye. Enjoy the interview.
What did you like about opiates? Like, what was the thing about it that you were just hooked on?
Well, I obviously don't need a stimulant for any artificial stimulant for any reason. If you've ever been around me for any length of time whatsoever,
I'm picking up on that.
I'm picking up on that too, Steve.
Yeah. So that's the deal. I mean, it was me doing speed was like I almost never did it. It was an announcement from the Department of Redundancy Department, and I think. I don't know how that thing works, but they gave Ritalin to kids and it chilled them out. Cause you'd think that would have worked on me, but it didn't. It made me worse.
Yeah.
It was, so I just almost never did it. And speed was still a thing in Nashville when I got there. Coke hadn't really taken over yet. And as soon as Coke hit, it created a caste system that hadn't, happened before. There was before there was Coke all the time, which happened within a year after I got there. But it was like, you see me, David Olney, people that were at street level, and Neil Young in the same room. It would happen. And after hours in Nashville, I met Neil Young chauffeuring. I was Jerry Jeff Walker's designated driver when he came to Tennessee because he didn't have a driver's license and he couldn't get caught, driving without a license again. So he'd rent a Cadillac without a license somehow and then come pick me up if Guy and Susanna were in town. And I would drive Jerry Jeff around, and that's how I met Neil. Was the first time. He probably wouldn't even remember that, but he was the Spence Manor had just opened, the hotel on the road there, and Jerry Jeff says, okay, we're going here, we're going there. And he gave me his speed that night because I was driving and we were going to be up all night. And he said, okay, we're going to go. Neil's over at the Spence Manor. And I didn't know Neil who until we got up there. And it was just kind of shocking.
Hold on. So,
the most famous Neil ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Neil.
Yeah.
So,
what are the difference between these hangs back then versus the hangs now?
Shit, I don't know because I don't hang, I've got friends that are younger in Nashville and it's so much bigger. There's so much more going on. There's so much more to do. There's places to play original live music. There were 2 places you could go play your own songs in Nashville when I got there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was Bishop's Pub, which was a basket house. And there was the Villager that paid you, most people $10 an hour. I mean, $10 a night. Me and David Olney had talked them into. The new owners took over, bought it from the original owners, and they lied to the new owners and said that Olney and I got 20 each. So we got to raise them when the new owners took over. But that was it. You just get, and there was no place for bands to play original music until the early 80s, and that was like. There was a few places there's a place called Frank's of the Steins, which is where the kind of punk rock scene came up. And then Cantrell's, was the first place that did touring stuff and local stuff as there started to be a kind of an alternative music scene. And I started the 3-piece rockabilly band around that time. So I became sort of one person that had been in the legitimate music business and had a couple of publishing deals and had one at the time. But I was a little older than the rest of them. Jason and the Scorchers and I carried one of my day jobs. After Justin was born, I panicked and I had a publishing deal, but I had a job washing dishes and the ring announcer in a restaurant that had kickboxing as entertainment. Whose idea was it to serve bad Mexican food next to the spit bucket, right? It's just it's not a good business model.
Were you ever good at money? Were you ever good at like saving money?
I'm still not.
Still not. So how many times have you been broke? How many times have you like lost it all?
I lost pretty much everything. I never made over $3,000 a year until 1986 when Guitar Town came out.
Holy shit,
31.
dude.
I was 31 years old.
Damn.
Hold on, how'd you survive? You just lived on dope and just what?
No. I had kids. I couldn't live on dope all the time. I had,
how'd you even afford kids like with $3,000?
You just did it. The same reason everybody has kids. Nobody decides whether they can. I mean, the people that decide whether they can have kids or not are usually having kids for the wrong reasons. It's one that
Trying to save the relationship.
If you ever run into a woman that's saying wants to have a baby because it's going to complete her, run like hell, because that's not what it does. You can tell them this. What happens when you have a child is.
Rule. Oh my God.
And this doesn't mean I don't recommend it. It's one of the most rewarding things I've done. But it's like when you have a child, it doesn't complete you. It takes a piece of your heart, your soul, and it releases it into the universe where you can't control it anymore, and it goes out there and breaks your heart. And that's if what happened to Justin doesn't happen. That's the best case scenario. And you can't parent adults, but nobody seems to know that when their kids become adults.
Right.
And it's a hard thing. It's a hard road to hoe.
What was the hardest divorce you had to go through?
I don't even want to get into that because it gets. I mean,
they're all different.
I've been the one that left is almost equally as the number of times I got left, and every time I got left, I deserved it except maybe one, and it was ended up being the most expensive one. I just don't. There's no upside.
What I'm asking is like, what's your take on love now? Ever since you've had to deal with this,
I believe in it. I just think that I'm looking around my apartment. I got this apartment that costs a lot of money because of where it is and everything, but I didn't figure this out for a long time. But I got 2 rolling racks of guitars under a loft bed in my bedroom, and I got this sectional in here behind me that is I don't know, you can kind of see it back there. Yeah. And then over here's a big screen TV on the wall, and my apartment's basically a tour bus.
Yeah.
That's the way it's laid out. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. And I spent years trying to find a woman that would go, so I could sleep when I was home, but I never could find one. So.
That's so funny. I think you just need a sound machine.
Yeah, we need to get you. I'm gonna ship you a sound machine. I'm like, because I sleep way better on the bus too. I can't sleep good when I'm at my house.
I love buses.
You don't need a wife. You need an app.
Yeah, you need an app.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't look. I believe in it. I just, for one thing. And this will sound like I'm blowing my own horn. You can't make art at the level that I decided when I was 16 or 17 years old that I was going to make it.
Yeah.
Because I knew Townes Van Zandt and I knew a few other people. I knew they weren't getting rich doing it, but they were doing it anyway. And I knew I've consciously made art to be art my whole career.
What was the best advice he gave you? through, I mean, when you
He
met
didn't
him.
give me advice. He'd give me a part of Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, a copy of Bury My Heart at Wounded, tell me to go read it.
Huh.
And then
Interesting.
That's
then he
interesting.
gave me. Then he said he sounded I'd never read, and then he gives me the Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and he was living in the cabin that I had found and I lived in for a minute. And I was living in San Miguel Allende, but I kept driveway rights. And when I would come back to Nashville to pitch songs and hang out, I'd park in the driveway. I was getting ready to go back to Mexico. And he said, you never read Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee? And he digs in this box of books that he's been dragging around since Austin. And he pulls out a beat to that paperback edition of Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee and gives it to me.
Yeah.
And I said, that's cool. And he goes, and while you're at it, read this. And he handed me a copy of War and Peace. And okay, so I got to the 9th grade twice and didn't finish it either time. So I had not read War and Peace. So I take the books. I'm in town, a little bit longer, and I read, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee really quickly. And I finished War and Peace after a couple of months. And then I come back through and I return books and tools. So I took the books back to town.
That's a good trait, man.
Yeah,
good man.
No, it's rare. It's rare. Trust me. But I
keep the money.
I said, I brought the books back. He goes, thanks, man. He goes, what'd you think? I said, I want to thank you for making me read Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. I mean, I really, he goes, what about War and Peace? And I said, well, it's kind of long, but, and then we would talk about friends. And I finally realized Towns had never read War and Peace. It was like, but I did.
Did he respect you?
Yeah, absolutely he did. But he with me constantly, or he wouldn't have bothered with me at all.
Yeah, because did you consider him like a mentor?
Yeah, he was a mentor. So was Guy Clark. Guy Clark was more a traditional type mentor relationship. But
what was your relationship with
him? They
him?
both loved me. They both cared about me. You're in trouble when you have to sit through a temperance lecture from Townsend and Zandt. And I'd gotten in really bad trouble in LA, and my ex-wife had moved me back to Tennessee thinking, originally she tried to dump me at my parents' house, and she just drove off. And we owned a house in Tennessee, which I still own. And I made my way back to Tennessee, and she let me back in. And we were out doing something, and I've been on really bad rips. I was in bad shape. I was shooting dope by that time, and it got back into the speedball thing, which means a lot more needles and a lot more damage, and no time to do anything else.
Jesus Christ.
And we pull into the driveway, and Towns' truck's in the driveway. And we go up. I never locked the door in those days. And we go on. Towns is sitting in the living room playing one of my guitars. And Teresa walks in with me, and she just shakes her head, and she goes off in another part of the house. And he looks at me for a minute. He's sitting playing the guitar and says, you look like I said, yeah, I know. He goes, your arms really look like I said, I know. He said, you got clean needles? I said, yeah. He said, every time? I said, yeah. I mean, I did reuse needles. I didn't share them with anybody. Right. Okay. He goes, okay, well, look, let me play you the song that I just wrote. And he hadn't written that much for several years. He'd only written a few songs, and he played Marie. I don't know whether you know that song or not, but
that's my guy, dude.
That was it. That was the whole temperance lecture. That was it.
And is he staring you in the eyes when he's playing it?
No, he closed his eyes like he always did. I don't ever remember Towns singing with his eyes open ever. Yeah. Anytime I ever saw him play.
Did you understand
right
away?
When he was still, I saw him when he was still. When I met him, was the end of the peak of his powers as a performer. He would stand there, not move at all, just close his eyes, and it was riveting. It was like he was still one of the best solo performers I ever saw.
Oh my God! Then what about Guy? What was the difference between him lecturing Towns and Guy lecturing you?
Guy would show me stuff that about. I mean, some of it he would show me how he laid songs out on a page.
Yeah.
And he was very organized about it. And he never, when I started writing digitally, kind of freaked him out. He didn't want to hear about that. He wrote on, Yellow Legal Pad till the day he died. My handwriting's illegible. So as soon as I figured out that I could write on the computer, wake up in the morning and still read it, I was down.
Yeah.
And now I write mostly everything on my phone
Yeah, totally.
because I can put it in notes and it's sitting on my computer and I can drag it into a document when I get home and I don't lose anything anymore. Of course, there's no archives, which people tell me are worth money for years and years and years now, but because it's all been digital. But we've only all this scouring. I've been married so many times, scouring through stuff because I was looking because people were asking me about it. My sister started looking. We managed to find one original lyric in my hand.
Wow. Oh my
out of
God.
all the boxes of stuff that were at my house and my sister's house.
So,
and that's Johnny Come Lately, the original lyric from Johnny Come Lately, which I wrote in London. So I don't know.
So
it made it
how that
overseas.
survived.
before I want to talk about modern songwriters and your take on this. What was it? Did you write a lot of your songs on dope?
I didn't write hardly anything on drugs. I very rarely did that. I mean,
so it was
when I
more of
first
like an
got to-
after thing. You're hanging. That was like,
Yeah. It was purely recreation and
so how hard was it to get off of it?
really hard. But it was hard to stop smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, I love cigarettes.
They had to lock me up to get me to stop taking drugs. That's how hard it was. I slipped in it on 3 interventions. And I just wasn't going to quit. I was going to die. Wow. And then I got locked up and there were programs around and my lawyer figured out that they could get me furloughed to a treatment center. My blood pressure was sky high because I was detoxing from heroin and cocaine and, or methadone and cocaine, which is even worse and takes forever to get out of your system because it's metabolized in your liver. Oh yeah. It took a year before I felt halfway normal.
Wow. I didn't know that actually.
But my blood pressure gotten really high after I've been in jail about a week and a half. And the sheriff had somebody die in the jail of a drug overdose, but did not want me when the doctors told him that I was likely to have a stroke or something from drug withdrawal, which probably I would have survived it. I was only I was 39, but the sheriff didn't want me in her jail. And the judge had sentenced me illegally. He'd given me 11 months and 29 days at 75% for simple possession of 1/10 of a gram of heroin, first offense. I'd never had a drug charge.
Whoa, that's crazy.
But I didn't show up for my sentencing hearing, and that pisses judges off.
He's like, you want to play?
A methadone. I was in a methadone program in Georgia because you could only get like 60 milligrams in Tennessee and you could get 110 in Georgia. So that's where I went to get my methadone.
Oh, okay.
Wow. But it was so I missed that sentencing hearing and he still wasn't a legal sentence, but it was not going to be. There was no upside, and 75% meant doing 9 months of it.
Right.
So but they talked him into letting me furlough to a treatment center that the state had a deal with. It was a bare bones place called Buffalo Valley. And I went there. And first I thought I would walk out of there. And, as soon as I got feeling better, but then I figured out the Hohenwald police, Hohenwald's in Lewis County, Tennessee. It's called Lewis County because Meriwether Lewis killed himself there.
Wow.
And it's not like when he was on his way back from
uplifting
Missouri.
tale.
What an uplifting tale.
And he got at a stagecoach station there. He had a bad day and shot himself. But it's weird because it was like, and there's an elephant sanctuary there. So if you walk out of the treatment center and go the wrong way, you run into a elephant in Middle Tennessee, which they go right back to treatment if you run into that.
Sober or what?
Yeah. Well, it was this woman that was rescuing circus and elephants from zoos that had closed, and she had 2 of them there at the time. So I just finally figured out that I wasn't going anywhere. And I at some point decided I didn't want to die, and I started listening, and I went back to jail when I finished the program after 29 days, and I did the rest of I did like 6 more weeks or something like that, and then finally the judge let me go.
Did you meet any friends or important people in jail that kind of inspired you? Or
no, I mean I met a bunch of people that were like me or in worse shape. And, I think, look, the odds of this are the 84 men that were in that treatment center. I'm the only one that stayed clean for this long.
Holy
continuously.
shit.
A few I know, some died, some got clean later and stayed clean.
Oh, okay.
I hired a driver, who was a guy that I'd been in there with but he was way younger than me, and his drug of choice was inhalants. He came from East Tennessee, and they build a lot of boats over there. So straight toluene's everywhere, and it's a big deal over there as a drug of choice. But for some reason, one of the counselors was just an example of how, drugs and alcohol fuck up your life. He's an old AA guy. He goes, how many people here have a valid driver's license? And one guy raised their hand.
Wow.
And it was this guy, Randy, and I remembered it. And he got out a few weeks after me. And I wrote him a letter, and I hired him as my driver when he got out. And he lived with my family for a while and drove me for the first. So it took me forever to get my license back. I'd never had a moving violation to take. My license expired, and they didn't have any heroin or cocaine at the driver's license bureau, so I didn't go there. It just wasn't the place I went. So
Yeah, you don't have anything I want there.
Hold on, Steve. Do you think jail actually helps recovering addicts, or is it you have to really
not
do the work?
normally. I don't recommend it. I say if you get a chance to go to the Betty Ford Center or someplace like that, which I had the opportunity, go.
Yeah.
That's way more likely to work. In my case, it worked, but nowadays there aren't even any programs like I got. You go to jail, they're not trying to help anybody keep clean. They're trying to run up numbers.
Right.
It's
all
about
privatized.
statistics.
It's all about they're just trying to put numbers in there.
And that was invented in the state of Tennessee. That's where Corrections Corporation of America is based.
Is it true there's more drugs in prison than on the street? You hear that
but there are drugs.
Right. Okay.
Look, anything that exists in the outside world exists in this kind of cracked mirror version. Inside, like somebody introduced, like while I was there and after I came back from treatment, they did a big drug roundup, and it's really hard to get everybody completely. Somebody got in there with I know two $20 rocks and started slicing them thin.
Oh my God.
And he had all cigarettes and all the Zuzus and Wham Whams in the institution. It was there was no cash in there. You had a debit card that your family could put money on, you could get, like, they call them Zuzus and Wham Whams in jail, but it's like any kind, snacks.
Right.
And there's also products in the machines like lotion, because there's a lot of black folks there.
Yeah.
So, black folks got to have lotion. And so me and we had the first commissary run in my cell, which was 50 guys in a dormitory type cell. And there's 4 of those in this building we were in. And we I had people putting money on my card. There were some people that didn't have anybody. And me and a guy that I knew from the street that was in there, that I'd bought drugs from on the street, that happened to be there when I got there, he kind of saved my ass and showed me the ropes. Me and him would go to commissary, and he would always say when they'd call, say, commissary is necessary. And we'd go and we'd buy all the Tootsie Roll Pops because we liked them. And we'd buy all of the lotion, and we would have every cigarette that was, and there was no smoking, but the trustees could get them from the guards, and you could get them from the trustees.
Right. Okay.
And a cigarette was expensive. I mean, people usually get a cigarette and they would break it up into 4 roll-ups. Get papers, and sometimes use the wrappers on toilet paper for cigarette papers because we couldn't always get them. And but if you smoked the whole thing, that was called a Cadillac, and I smoked Cadillacs.
That's my
when
guy.
I was there, so I did okay. But
so when you
I
got
didn't smoke very much. I should have just quit. I was lucky I could smoke 1 cigarette, maybe 2 a day.
Oh, so you got
just
back on the
because-
horse with the cigarettes after jail, and you loved it.
Oh, started smoking like Chief Wahoo by the time I'd been out 3 or 4 hours. It was ridiculous.
The straight up Cleveland Indian over there.
Yeah, no.
Hey, Steve,
I'm a Yankees fan all my life. I was issued pinstripes when I was 6 by my granddad, and I didn't have a choice.
what do you think Americans love more, a redemption story or a downfall story?
I think it depends on the American. I think that's why we're in the trouble that we're in now.
Right. Yeah. Talk about that a little more.
This is a big country. And one of the biggest mistakes the left makes is assuming that everybody would, even in a country this big and who makes their livings completely different and don't see anything but people that look just like them, assuming they would think just like people that live on the East Coast and know how we interface with the rest of the world. Right. Now, I grew up in occupied Mexico, so immigration, I've always known the truth about that. Not everybody that grows up where I did You know why Antonio Lopez de Santana, who was president of Mexico and also the Generalissimo of the army, do you know why he attacked Texas?
Why?
In 1836? Not, well, we're taught is because he hated our freedom.
Right.
He attacked them because they were holding slaves, which was illegal in Mexico, and they were in Mexico.
Right.
Oh,
And we're not taught that. And you had to be Catholic and you had to not own slaves in order to get that land those people got. And they took that land on those terms. And then they started bringing in slaves because they wanted to grow cotton. And there was always a backdoor deal with the United States that, hey, stand on your own for 10 years and we'll fund you. And that's exactly what happened. And we'll make you part of the United States. And that's what happened. That's what the Mexican War, 1846, like clockwork, we marched down and take Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, and California.
you think we're gonna have a civil war, Steve?
I don't think it's. I don't. But I tend to be an optimist, so you can't really listen to me. You know.
That's my
I
man.
think.
I agree, actually.
It's one of those things that I don't know. This is the test. There's not any doubt about it. But look, we're up against something that's so much bigger than we are, and we're being really dumb about it. And it's a lot of people. There are a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump that aren't. They're crazies. They're just people whose lives weren't getting any better, and they were lied to, and they bought it. And we have to remember that. And you can't. The left has to stop talking down to those people. I was on Air America. I was one of the original air personalities on Air America.
Yeah.
And I was there for most of the time it existed. I was there till the very end. I left a little bit before. My show was on the weekend, so I left before it completely ended. And you know, there were people on the channel that spent all their time talking about how stupid everybody was because they were, you know,
It's like an echo
they believe
chamber.
this or they believe that, and not everybody that believes differently than you is stupid.
It's
and
very
not everybody's a
condescending,
racist, and not everybody's a fascist, but Donald Trump is, and that's the problem.
Right.
So, you know, it doesn't matter how many Nazis, how many members of the Nazi Party were there for survival, and how many people. And there were lots of other Germans that just went along with it just fine as long as they still had a job and they felt like they bought the idea that they were the master race, and so they're complicit. It's one of those things. But we're, you know, that's where we are, and people don't want to believe that. And they've decided it's not. How is this not fascism? Fascism is defined as a relationship between the military and the very richest, most powerful people to sort of control things without bothering with any sort of democratic process. That's what fascism is.
And it's you know, it's like the last stab of power that we realize we're not really the strongest power anymore. And we can't.
Well, the deal with Trump is he's so power addicted that he really does believe with all his heart, I'm the president, I should be able to do anything I want. And he sees himself as doing the public service by, you know, making it easier for presidents to come after him. I think if he really, sometimes I think he thinks he's going to live forever. Look, Barack Obama promised he was going to close, Guantanamo
Bay.
Guantanamo, and then that disappeared immediately, and people, lefties, started asking why. It's because he was taken into a room and was told why he did not have the power to close Guantanamo.
Oh, yeah.
We have a military too, and they do have the guns. And
A lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And the deal is, here's the real twister right now. We're running out of guns fighting this war that we're fighting right now. Trump's about to empty the war chest if he keeps doing what he's doing. And I don't know what happens then.
That's what I'm
not,
saying.
you know.
I mean, that's what they're trying to do, I think. That's what Russia and China are trying to do, I think. They're trying to, all right, do all your proxy wars and you'll have nothing.
We'll sell you stuff. And
then we're
right.
And you buy our stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I think that we're at a point where I think that it's going to start with the midterms, and you're going to see things. If it's not overwhelming, I think at least it's going to be something, and it's going to be a step towards you're going to see some encouraging signs that some of those people that voted for Trump are going to say, "Oh, we f***ed up. We made a mistake." They're not going to admit they were wrong, and we need to not insist that they admit that they're wrong. They have the right to be wrong and vote for whoever they want to, and they have a right to change their minds.
Hell yeah.
In the next election, and if they don't, we are f***ed.
Yeah.
So don't.
Let's
do
bring him
anything
in.
to
Let's
discourage
let's not be
him.
exclusive here. Let's bring him into the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about
Absolutely.
songwriters now? Why are they afraid to write about? Why are they afraid to put their?
Well, not everybody should do it. It's one of those things. It's not easy to do. I don't know. I'm not a political songwriter. I mean, I am writing. I just wrote a song called Volver a Solaya, which I just recorded with Los Lobos, and it'll be out very soon. And it's about a guy that grew up in Mexico and comes to Texas and makes a whole life and has kids and the whole bit. And one of his kids goes to Afghanistan, and two of his kids go, and one doesn't come back. And then his wife dies of natural causes at the end of the song, and he decides he's going back to Solaya, where he came from, because this isn't the country that he built a life in anymore.
Oh my!
And I finished it, and I knew Lobos had. I also, me and Faroa in the Dark, the Brazilian band that I recorded that City of Immigrants with on Washington Square Sunday 20 years ago. We shot a new video of City of Immigrants, and that's getting ready to come out this week. So, I mean, basically, Bruce did what he did. Morello went to Minnesota, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be the political guy. I need to do something here. So, I we do what we do, and Bruce does it because he can, and Morello doesn't give a, and he's one of my favorite people in the world. We've done a lot of stuff together. But I'll see them. My tour starts in D.C. the night before theirs ends there, so I'll be at the D.C. show.
You gonna play with them?
Tour. No, I'm Morello's sitting in with them. They're locked in. I saw Bruce over the weekend for the awards for the American Music Honors that he established out in Monmouth, because I was in the first class, and I went and so they inducted the Doors. I went and sang Roadhouse Blues on the show the other night. It's a blast. And Bruce was there, and Dre was there, and it was Chuck D and
Bruce and
Dre.
Dre.
And I haven't seen Chuck D since we were together on Air America 20 years ago. We had the only 2 music shows on the channel together, and it was good to see him. So it was a lot of fun.
What a life.
Steve, I could talk to you forever. Thanks so much for being the man. Thanks for inspiring so many musicians. You're the best. My one last question before we have our producer do his question. Come over, Neil. Get over here. I want to show you. I want you to talk to our producer Neil. He has one question for you.
Hey, Neil.
All right. I have a short one, maybe, depending on your answer. What is on top of your refrigerator right now?
On top of my refrigerator, I have an embarrassingly big, high-tech refrigerator that there's no top.
There's no top.
So the closest thing to that in my apartment, what would it be? I can show you. There's a Pooja table, which is like got pictures and stuff you might stick on your refrigerator, but it's also got a piece of a quarter mola, one of the ones that's bracelet length, that has a tiny piece of red thread that came from Neem Karoli Baba's blanket that Ramdas gave me.
Jesus.
And there's
that's sick.
And there's a bunch of silver ingots in the shape of Fender guitars, Stratocasters, Telecasters, Jazzmasters. My sister's given me for Christmas every year. That's my miniature guitar collection.
That's awesome.
And there's a bunch of Hindu deities and a coal miner's carbide lamp that one of the miners that survived the explosion at Upper Big Branch gave me. So I would have the usual shit on my refrigerator, and I did in my last apartment with magnets. My kid brought home from school, and some of that stuff's on that table too. But I moved into this apartment, and it's got wooden doors on the outside, and it doesn't stick to it. If you try to stick something on there, it just falls down. So
that is a highly satisfying answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neil, for all your great questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Steve, thank you so much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. My last question, do you have any regrets or any things you wish you'd done differently versus not, or if not, you felt like you learned your lessons?
Oh, I mean, I think my regrets are none of it has to do with art, or it's hard to regret art. You do what you do, and maybe it was a mistake. I mean, I could have a bigger audience if I hadn't done some things, but I definitely don't regret those things because I did them when my eyes. So most of the regrets I have are about hearts I broke, along the way. People that got hurt, and it was my fault, and there's not any doubt about it. And so I have regrets about that. You're an asshole if you don't. So yeah, that's probably it.
Well, you are the man. Thanks for inspiring so many musicians to be better at the art of word, and thanks for just keeping on going, brother. We're here. We're rooting for you. So, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
You the man.
Bye.
See ya.